So welcome to a petrol station somewhere outside of Bordeaux. It's 5:45 in the morning, and today we are going on a nice little trip to a town called Salon de Provence, which is just west of Marseille. So come along with me and see all the parts of my fantastic journey to this little known city in the south of France. Just about to go and get on one of the very last Bordeaux to Marseille flights operated by Ryanair. So for anybody who didn't know, Ryanair a few months back had a big bust up with the management of Bordeaux Airport and have decided to withdraw all of their aircraft and operate no more routes from Bordeaux until further notice. So after Ryanair have left, the only operator still operating Marseille is going to be EasyJet. Although the French branch of Transavia is also going to take over running the flights as of, I think, the end of the year. So typically when you depart from Bordeaux Airport, if you're going on a low-cost airline, most of the time your flight will operate from what they call the Billy terminal, which is a very basic terminal that was designed initially when Ryanair first came to Bordeaux. It was designed for them, essentially, which is just basically a hangar with a few tables in it. But depending on the destination and where the inbound aircraft has come from, they will also sometimes depart from Hall A, which is the main international departure area. I have discovered that my flight is today departing from Hall A. So we're going to walk down to Hall A, get ourselves through security and go and get a nice cup of coffee, because it is only 6:30 in the morning and I do need a bit of coffee in the morning. So I'm entering Bordeaux Airport from the north exit today, which is just by the entrance to the control tower. So you just walk in through here. You've got the parking office on your right hand side, and just after the parking office it's a right turn up the escalator all the way up to the top, and then just straight ahead to go through the Hall A departure check, and then security is after that. So I'm not going to film security because it's not particularly interesting for anybody. And fast forward about an hour and 20 minutes and I am now in Marseille. So Ryanair operates to the extreme south side of Marseille Airport, which is where all the low-cost operators tend to operate. And every single time I come into Marseille Airport, be it with EasyJet or Ryanair, I always seem to get the parking stand that is the absolute furthest away from the exit of the airport. So out of here. After a Ryanair flight, I didn't really talk very much about the Ryanair flight because it was, well, just a Ryanair flight really. As you can see, when you arrive on the low-cost airlines at Marseille, you come down to Terminal 2, which is down at the south side of the airport. And if you're going to go and rent a car, then you have to walk all the way up to the north side of the airport, where all the rental car agencies are located. As you walk along here, you'll see on your left the bus station. There's a number of buses which will take you into the centre of Marseille and also up to the TGV station, which is ex-TGV, which is where all of the trains, for example, to Paris, etc. will go. If you want to buy train tickets, there's also a machine over there where you can buy your train tickets to go to wherever else you want to go to in France. So just as we walk up here, you can see that we're coming up towards Terminal 1, which is this one here, which is where most of the main legacy airlines and international flights operate from. Air France operate from here as well, obviously. And Terminal 1 has actually just undergone a massive renovation, which is not entirely finished, as you can see by all the building work that's going on around here at the moment. So a couple of words about car rentals in France then. So the major operators of car rental in France tend to be Hertz, Europcar, Sixt and Enterprise, and of course Ibis. Hertz and Ibis tend to be the most active at railway stations, whereas for airports, Enterprise and Sixt are actually probably the most active in France. When I rent cars on these trips, I typically tend to rent through Enterprise, just simply because the company I work for has a contract with Enterprise, and it's a very simplified system whereby whoever's renting the car can just turn up, pick up the keys and drive off, and there's no credit card deposit or anything. So it's a very nice fast-track system. Well, it's supposed to be a fast-track system, and Enterprise Marseille is probably the rental car agency where I go the most often, and I have to say I have mixed experiences, but we shall see what it's like today. And let's just say, thank God I'm not renting from Hertz today, because I'm going to be spending quite a few hours there if I was. You can see Enterprise rental car at Marseille coming up on the horizon now, and it looks to be fairly quiet for once, so I might actually have a seamless departure, but you never know until you actually get into the office itself. Right, so I finally managed to get hold of my car after about a 15-minute wait inside Enterprise in Marseille, and today's car is I don't even know what it is, a Toyota Yaris Cross, which is a car I've never seen before. I do remember the old Yaris, but I certainly don't remember the Cross version. So this is like a sort of a slightly stretched version of the original Toyota Yaris. I mean, it's quite a big car, but I haven't really got very far to go. But one thing I do enjoy actually when doing these trips is getting the chance to drive all sorts of different cars, because when it comes down to changing my own car, I've had a bit of experience driving quite a lot of different cars. Here we are inside my lovely Toyota Yaris Cross, and every time I get into a new hire car, obviously the first thing I'm going to do is look around and try and see where I can plug in my phone. And one of the things that is really irritating on a lot of the more modern hire cars now is that they only give you a USB-C socket to plug your phone into, which is a bit of a pain if your phone is not a USB-C phone. So I'm going to have to go in the boot and get a USB-C adapter cable so I can plug my phone in. So today's trip is going to take me to two places in and around the Marseille area. The first is going to be Aix-en-Provence, which is just north of Marseille. And I'm going to take the D9, which is like equivalent to an A road in the UK. It's going to take me probably about 20-25 minutes to get there, and then once I've finished there, I'll see my first client there, and then I'm going to leave Aix-en-Provence, and I'm going to drive west using the A8 and A7 motorways down towards Salon de Provence, which, as I mentioned earlier, is where there is a big French airbase, which is also used for training French fighter pilots. So I'm going to get myself out of Marseille Airport here, and typically when you drive out of Marseille Airport, you will get given a ticket like this with a number to get out of the gate, and you have to key in all the digits and then just press the hash key at the end when you've finished, and normally the barrier will open up. So let's go. So to get out of the car rental car park at Marseille Airport, you have to put this code in, which means that the barrier will then open and you can get out of the car park. Bit of a fiddle to get out of Marseille Airport because there's a big one-way system. You have to go all the way down to the end, round the roundabout and back out again. But once we're on the D9, it takes us probably about 20-25 minutes to get up to my first destination, which is the airfield of Aix-les-Milles, which is home to numerous flying schools, maintenance facilities, and also a helicopter producer called Guimbal Helicopter, which is a very interesting place to visit if you ever get the chance. So next part of my trip now is going to be off down towards Salon de Provence. So I'm going to take the A8 motorway out of here in Aix, then a little bit of the A7, and I'll come off the motorway just a little bit further down to go down to Eyguières, which is where the small airfield I'm going to this afternoon. So let's go. So from Aix-les-Milles, I'm going to take the A8 motorway, followed by the A54 motorway, which, if you follow it all the way down, continues on towards Nîmes and Montpellier. And it's going to take me probably about 3/4 of an hour to do the whole trip until I get to my next destination, which is the airfield of Eyguières, which is very adjacent to the main Salon de Provence airbase. So this is one of the things I love about travelling to these sort of off the beaten track type places. I've just driven into the middle of the countryside, just outside Salon de Provence, to a small airfield, which you can see behind me. You can see a few aircraft and some gliders in their trailers packed up over there. And I've come to a flying club, which looks pretty nondescript from the outside. Come around this side, look at this. It's like somebody's holiday villa. Right on some airfield in the middle of nowhere. And apparently the building is almost 100 years old. And it just looks such a nice place to sit and talk about aeroplanes. That is my day done. It's 4:20 in the afternoon. It's been a pretty long one. Got up very early this morning, and I've just arrived at today's typical French hotel. And as I often do, I am staying tonight in an Ibis hotel. Specifically, this one today is the Ibis Salon de Provence Sud, so the south of Salon de Provence. So Ibis hotels tend to be much of a muchness. They generally tend to reach a certain standard. And for those of you who don't know, when you book through the Accor Hotels group, you have different levels of hotels, with the Formula One being the cheapest one, which I would probably never stay in because it's one step up from basically sleeping in a tent in the car park. Then Ibis budget, which I will generally stay in if there's nothing else available. And then you have the standard Ibis, and then above that you have the Ibis styles, and then you have the Mercure and the Novotel, and then various other luxury brands. But in most of these small secondary towns in France, you're going to be in an Ibis or a Mercure if you're lucky, and they generally tend to be fairly comfortable. So the big question I'm going to ask myself tonight is, what do I do for dinner? Now, common thing for Ibis hotels, particularly in this part of the world, is for them to be on a site where they have a chain restaurant. And the most common chain restaurants that you get next to Ibis hotels are what's called the courte paille. I'll do another video about the courte paille, which has a special place in my heart at some point. Or quite often you have the boucherie, or the butchers, which today is the case. There is a boucherie restaurant next door, which is just basically a simple steak house where they do steak and chips, burger and chips, which is, it's nothing special, but it's generally pretty tasty and quite reasonably priced. So next thing to do now is to go into my typical French hotel for this trip and check out the room. Okay, so here we are in the room at the Ibis Provence Sud, which, as you can see, is a fairly typical basic hotel room, but looks pretty comfy. Bed's nice, it's very clean. Have a quick look at the bathroom. Shouldn't imagine there's too much wrong there, but we shall have a little look. Does tend to be a bit hit and miss sometimes with what you get with the bathrooms in these Ibis hotels, but generally they tend to be quite clean. Yeah, very clean, nice and clean. Not really much to say about it, to be honest. Just always disappointed when you get a shower rather than a bathtub. That's one of my little luxuries I like to have in Ibis hotels at the end of the day, is to have a bathtub, but they are rarer and rarer in hotel rooms these days. So here I am, just arrived at the flying club where I'm going to be doing my course today. The lovely flying club in Salon Eyguières, so just outside of the main city of Salon de Provence. And I didn't show you dinner last night just simply because I was too tired, and I ended up just getting Uber Eats in my hotel room, which I quite often do at the end of a very long day. Something I got used to doing when I was travelling during COVID, and which I carry on doing quite often now. So my morning's work is finished, and now it's off for a very nice lunch on this very sunny day in Salon de Provence. And we're off to the village of Eyguières, where we are going to eat in what looks like a very nondescript sort of roadside cafe type place. But I have to say the food was really excellent, and there are very, very, very few places anywhere where you'd be able to get a sole Meunière for 16 euros. So really, really marvellous value. Nice welcome from the staff, and just a very, very nice meal all round. I always make a habit of not sitting at the table when I'm eating with people, filming my plate and whatever, because that just looks really cheesy and it makes you look like an absolute tool. So I didn't do that, but here's some of the information about the restaurant where I had lunch. So, day's done now, and we are going to go to Marseille Airport to get back on the flight to go back to Bordeaux. Same route more or less as the one we took to get here. Go back along the A54, back towards the A7, and then down the A7 back into Marseille Airport. And if we got time, we're going to try and go to one of my favourite hidden gems, which is just outside Marseille Airport as you go down the hill towards the airport coming from Berleton. So we're going to go and see if we can get in there, and it's quite a nice place to eat, so we shall have a look. So to get to my special destination here, you need to come off the A7 motorway slightly before Marseille Airport. That is exit number 28, which is signposted Berleton and Rognac. And then from there, you just need to drive down the hill and then take the exit down towards Berleton. And then just down a little bit further. And I always suggest that when you return your rental car to Marseille Airport, rather than trying to fill up at the airport itself, which is quite a difficult petrol station to get to, and there's a lot of queues, I always stop at this particular petrol station because it's always very quiet and it's on the way, and it allows you to save a bit of time. So now I've filled up my hire car, I'm just going to carry on a bit further down the road for tonight's pre-departure dinner. So you just come off into this sort of strange side road up here, and then a bit further down, and then you turn down a very, very narrow road which takes you all the way down to the bottom and to the car park of the restaurant, which is actually a Vietnamese restaurant. And as you see, as we drive down here, we're just going to come round the corner, and it's going to be one of the most improbable views that you could have expected to see at the back of some industrial estate down the back of Marseille Airport. So this is what I really like about these little trips here. I drive to all these kind of nondescript places, and all of a sudden I turn off down a side road, go through what looks like somebody's driveway, and we end up here. A Vietnamese restaurant right by a lake. It's the 22nd of October and it's still 25 degrees outside, so we're going to be able to go out and have dinner outside. So sitting here now at the An Nam Vietnamese restaurant, which is just out by the lake, or what we call the pond of Berre, which is just next to Marseille Airport. And you see, it's October. Look at that sunset in October. 25 degrees, sitting outside having some nice Vietnamese food. So I'm going to have a little look at the menu. They've done away with paper menus here, so we're going to end up with a menu via a QR code. And here I've gone for the Vietnamese omelette, which was incredibly tasty. So after my delicious Vietnamese meal, it's now time to head back down to Marseille Airport for my supposedly 21:40 departure back to Bordeaux. As we drive into Marseille Airport, it's fairly quiet tonight, so it's just a matter of going back to the airport, around the roundabout, and right through the barriers into the rental car parking area to go and drop off my car. So here we go, another 2-day trip to Marseille, more or less done. So just dropped off my car back at Enterprise where I picked it up yesterday, and we're going to walk all the way down to Terminal 2. Now my flight's at 9:30 and it's just coming up for 8 o'clock now. I always try to time my arrival just about in time to get on the flight, because Terminal 2 departure area is not particularly comfortable and I don't really want to spend a minute more in there than I really need to. So we shall have a look at the Terminal 2 departure area later on. And just as I was walking back to the terminal, I came across this thing, an Avgeek's Dream, which is a list of all the arrivals, but not just with the flight numbers, but also the aircraft registration and the type of aircraft, which is actually apparently a copy of the operational one that they use at the airport, and they display it for the taxi drivers so they can see what time the flights are coming in. So just as I was slagging off Terminal 2 at Marseille Airport, I got to the check-in scan area, and the lady told me that just the Bordeaux flight, the Marseille to Bordeaux flight, will now be operating from Terminal 1, which is something that I learned today. So we now get to explore the brand spanking new, newly refurbished Terminal 1 at Marseille Airport, which does look very nice from the outside. So it's in through the doors, all the way along the terminal to the far end of the terminal, up the escalators, all those lovely shiny marble floors. Top of the escalator, turn right and go over towards the new security area, which looks fantastic, and everything was going swimmingly until this happened. So what seems to be happening is that there's a general computer fault at the new security checkpoints, which means that all of the X-ray scanner screens have stopped working. So we just have to basically all stand here until somebody works out how to fix it. A lot of people are starting to panic because there's a flight departing in about 20 minutes. And I think they've just managed to open up one out of the, how many there are, about 20 points here. So we may end up moving over there. So after about 40 minutes of standing waiting to get through the security check, the computers finally started working again, and I was able to get through security, walk down to the gate and get onto my flight home to Bordeaux. So it always seems to be dark when I come back to Bordeaux Airport. It's just about midnight now. Supposed to depart from Marseille at 9:30, didn't get off the ground till about 10:15. We had a slot restriction which was down to short staffing at Bordeaux Airport in the approach and tower, which has been an ongoing problem in the last few weeks, but finally got back, and that is now the end of my first trip report with Practical France. Hope you enjoyed it. Please do subscribe to the channel if you found it interesting, and please do feel free to drop me a comment or send me a message if you've got any questions. Take care.